Hello again, everybody, and welcome to part 4 of our interview series with Miami Athletic Director Dan Radakovich. Today, we're going to start out talking about Hard Rock Stadium, and namely Radakovich's opinion that it's one of the finest facilities in college sports. We'll discuss it in the context of what Miami's football future might mean in terms of where it plays. How serious is a proposal by John Ruiz to build the stadium at Tropical Park? Hasn't been presented to the Miami administration as of yet. We'll also talk about NIL and how that's changed college sports. We'll talk about Ruiz and his impact on the Miami athletic program through his NIL activities. And then we'll also even touch on other subjects like the Cavender Twins and how they are about to change Miami women's sports forever. Enjoy, everybody. Dan, the last time that Clemson came to play Miami at Hard Rock, and I don't know how I remember this, but I do. I ran into you out in the parking lot, and you couldn't stop gushing about the stadium. Like they had just done all these improvements, and the college football playoff was getting ready to have championship games at Hard Rock. And I remember how impressed you were just with the stadium and the facilities there. Now, there's, one of the, I'll call him a booster, benefactor, whatever we call him now, because his role's kind of changed. But, John Ruiz has been talking about wanting to build a stadium at Tropical Park. And that's a whole massive undertaking of its own if you're talking about building something that you would even consider moving out of Hard Rock for. Your thoughts on the stadium situation? Like I said, I know you love Hard Rock, the facilities. Where is the University of Miami in the years moving forward here in terms of where it's going to play football?
Gary, we have a great relationship with the Dolphins, Mr. Ross, and a lot of University of Miami connections at Hard Rock Stadium. Plus, we have a little thing called a contract, which we have with them, which is very, very important. They've been great partners with us. So we, and all the work that has been done there, and around the stadium, and even more since I ran into you in the parking lot. That was whenever they put the shades over the top. So it's a really great place for us to play. We're proud to play there. My focus, Gary, is less on a stadium, because that's 7 days a year for our fan base and our student athletes, than the forever home that they're going to spend 358 days a year in, and how that's going to impact their lives and our ability to recruit great student athletes. The stadium thing, however that'll work out, we'll have those are little. Those boats are a little harder to turn around in a harbor, so it takes a good long time for those to happen. But we want to make sure that we're giving our student athletes the best opportunity to be successful.
Has Tropical Park landed on your desk yet?
No,
just the concept. They're not there yet. Yeah.
No.
All right. So I mentioned John Ruiz. The impact that this man has made in a short period of time in the world of NIL. He's a household name now. Life Wallet is living proof that you can use NIL to brand, because whether people are signing up for Life Wallet, they certainly have heard of it because of all the media coverage and stuff that John Ruiz has gotten through his NIL activities. There also has been talk that a collective is going to form at Miami at some point here, and they've been working and trying to get that off the ground. And all that. So NIL is very much alive here at Miami. Does the University of Miami have any concerns whatsoever that right now all those eggs are in one basket? I imagine that it's going to be seen as a positive that there's going to be another group potentially forming to share some of the burden of NIL. And I know you guys can't be involved in it.
Right.
But your athletes are all entering into contracts with these people, and so it ultimately does filter to you to some degree. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first of all, John Ruiz, I've had a number of conversations with him. I truly enjoy him as an individual. He is he's one of those folks who just enjoys life, lives it to the fullest, and I enjoy him as an individual, and certainly as someone who's a benefactor of the institution. And the way he's been able to position his product, as you talked about, Gary, that was incredibly well marketed. Life Wallet is known in all four corners of the United States by those who follow intercollegiate athletics. Other collectives, we understand some of those are out there. We want to give them education because we've created contracts with some organizations that provide that kind of education to folks who are in those spaces, including John. So we want to make sure that we're doing it the right way and our student athletes are having the opportunity to be successful. Will NIL be in the same place? Will these opportunities be the same for student athletes 3 or 4 years from now as they are today? That's one I can't answer right now. I think that someone really smart told me a long time ago, wealthy people are wealthy for a really good reason. They utilize their resources in a very positive way. And that way could be continuing in to support student athletes, but there's got to be some really good return on investment. So just as if we sat here 3 years ago, we would not think that this would be an opportunity at all. Where 3 years from now, I think it's really hard to venture a guess.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I mean, I personally think it's going to change, but I think it's the schools that are, and not the schools, but the supporters of the schools that are doing NIL that are willing to play ball at the level that you have to play ball right now to be competitive in NIL. The schools that have those are going to have a great advantage when the landscape inevitably does change and some more rules are put in place to kind of control the competitive environment a little bit. I mean, it just seems like that's where it's headed. Would you agree with that today it's important for the people that are doing NIL at schools to be able to compete at the highest level?
Well, yes and no. There was a time Clemson played Ohio State in the Orange Bowl a few years ago. Prior to it was the last year of the BCS, and at that point in time, Clemson hadn't done what they've done, and Ohio State still was the behemoth that they have been and continue to be, and made a statement with Coach Sweeney that if we go out for a coin flip of checkbooks at the 50-yard line to begin the game, we don't have much hope because they have all of the resources. The University of Texas for years has had all of the resources. There are others you could name. Schools like Michigan, certainly has had that. But games aren't played with checkbooks; they're played with people. And that's what's so important. Do you have the right coaches? Have they been able to recruit the right student athletes? Yes, now it's a little different with name, image, and likeness to be able to get those student athletes. But at the end of the day, we can all list, anyone who's listening to this program, 5-star, superb student athletes coming out of high school that just didn't pan out and just didn't work out the way everyone had thought. We could also name 2-star student athletes who nobody thought were going to play very well, that were incredible college student athletes. So it's still about people, and having the right coaches and giving them the right resources to be able to work their magic.
At the same time, in tandem with NIL, the transfer portal has brought free agency to college football and college sports in general. Your thoughts on the transfer portal?
I think the transfer portal was one of the inevitabilities of life. When it started out after you graduated, which really was, everyone's goal within the NCAA and within college sports, that once you graduate, you should be able to do. If you want to go somewhere else and play, that should be up to you. And for a number of years, probably about close to a decade, the graduate transfer was a good thing. But then it started to morph into the undergraduate area. And, the NCAA didn't have really a good legal leg to stand on to say no when coaches were able to leave, athletic administrators were able to leave, and student athletes weren't. But student athletes, colleagues on a college campus could move from one place to another, keep their scholarship, and continue as a concert pianist, or someone who goes from one school to another in theater and become the star of the show. I mean, they didn't have to wait a year in order to try out at their next school to be in theater production. So it was a hard argument to get by, and that's why at the end of the day it didn't work. Now, we could put some timing in, put some parameters around it to make it a little better from the standpoint of the team that you're leaving behind. I mean, people forget about that. A great student athlete leaves and goes to another school, and everyone is, saying, wow, that student athlete went somewhere else. Well, what about the people they left? We'll look at a real life example, Jordan Addison at the University of Pittsburgh. He leaves the University of Pittsburgh, goes to Southern California. It's going to be a great thing for him. But all of the people that were the other 10 people on the offense at Pitt were counting on Jordan Addison to come back, and maybe they would have made a different decision. Would Slovis have had gone to the University of Pittsburgh if Jordan Addison wasn't there? I don't know. But there they are.
There they are.
So I think that understanding, and not that Jordan Addison did anything wrong. I think everybody understands that. That's the rules that we're playing with today. But in order to create maybe a better circumstances, to have some guardrails as to when those moves can be made.
You come in as athletic director, and the next thing you know, you're in the middle of March Madness. The basketball program goes to the Elite Eight. Just a absolutely ridiculous level of accomplishment for Jim Larranaga and his entire program. You immediately give Jim a much-deserved contract extension. At the same time, all of the other coaches in the ACC that are Jim's age are all retiring. Jim has no intentions of retiring. As you move forward as athletic director, this figures, in all honesty, to be one of your greatest challenges. The management of an older head coach who is still accomplishing things in his program. And it's no secret, we see it all over the place. How do you manage that situation? And because ultimately a coach gets to the point where he can't recruit anymore, and it's in the best interest of everybody that a change is made, but they just went to the Elite Eight. Jim Larranaga is showing no signs of being at that point anytime soon.
Jim's pretty easy to manage. You just let him go, and he and his staff produce really good basketball. So as long as that's going on, it's an easy managed circumstance. Jim is in tremendous shape. He has great health. Knock on wood, it continues for him. He's so alive. He's invigorated with the student athletes that have been brought in. Last year's success was really great for him because he had the one great year at George Mason, and then had a number of really good years, ACC championships here at Miami. He's so good in the community. He's so good for the university. I want Jim to be here as long as Jim wants to be here, and I think there's no harsher critic on his productivity than himself. So I think that there's a realization and a self-actualization of when he's going to feel like I've had enough, and we're nowhere close to that.
Were you surprised to see Coach K, Roy Williams, walk away?
Not really. I think that they had done things a certain way for so long, and I think the world was changing around them. They've been incredibly successful. They've been incredibly well compensated. What was left? What was left? So just enjoy enjoy both of those guys, having been in the league for so long, watching them compete.
Yeah, I that was my observation too. Like they're seeing how the game is changing, and they really don't want a part of this NIL and transfer portal and all that. I got to think that had something to do with it. Talking about changes, Dan, your women's program is in the process of experiencing something that has never been seen, certainly here at the University of Miami, maybe even in women's college sports with this world of NIL now, and that is the entrance of the Cavender Twins. Okay, and I don't know if everybody's gotten to know these girls yet, but they are absolutely unbelievable. They're smart, they're funny, they have an incredible flair for social media and what entertains people, and they have become a seven-figure business enterprise. This is landing now at the University of Miami. Talk about the impact you think the Cavender Twins are going to make on women's athletics here at the U.
Well, I think that you've talked a lot about their the world around them, the NIL world around them, and their intelligence and business acumen, but they're pretty good basketball players too. So I really enjoyed the opportunity to sit and meet with them on their official visit with their parents as well. On that visit, they're wonderful young women. I think that if you look at why you go to college, okay, to prepare yourself for a successful life after college, these two young women with the ability, with NIL ability, have really been running their own business for almost a year now, and maybe before, maybe since a year from right now, because they were preparing for the July 1st opportunity. They had just we go to school. I went and I got an MBA, but everything I got while I was getting an MBA here at the University of Miami was theoretical. I didn't have a chance to put it into practice. These young women are actually living and practicing the things that they've learned in school, and taking it to another level, and being incredibly successful and humble. They're just really, really good ladies, and I can't wait for them to become a part of Kate's team with all the other really, really interesting young ladies that are on that team, and just a close-knit team that Kate's been able to pull together, and see where it takes us next year.
How do they impact the other women athletes at Miami?
Well, I think they have a blueprint. They can show how some of this is done, and I'm sure that they will be asked an awful lot of questions by other female student athletes that are here, and it'll be great to see them teach.
We talked about brands earlier in the show. How powerful of a brand is the U today?
It's really powerful here in Florida, and certainly here. I think it's still very solid throughout the country. I don't think it's where it once was, just because of the success that comes forward. But we have a great opportunity here to put it back into that level of prominence. It's respected here, and it's very important here from not only the athletic perspective, but the healthcare perspective. I mean, one could argue in South Florida, the U Health is a bigger brand than the University of Miami athletic program. Not because of, I think they're together. And Gary, you and I are old enough to understand that the U itself started as an athletics logo, and it morphed into one of the few places in the country where the athletics logo kind of moved into and created its part from the entire university. And I think that that's something that was really looked at in the late 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s when you look at all the success that the athletic program, and specifically football, has had. We need to make that better. We need to do our part and create and move the U forward and into a place of prominence where it belongs.
How do you do it? Is it as simple as winning football games? Like, how do you do it?
Well, I think you have to win football games, but you have to win football games the right way. You have to do it with class. You can't win or you're not going to win every game. So when things don't go your way, you've got to do it with a lot of class and humility. When you win, you have to do it with a lot of class and humility. And I look forward to our fans doing the same thing. You've got to learn how to be great. Every great athletic program or football program that's come along the way has learned how to win. Just as our student athletes have to learn how to win, our fans have to learn how to win, and they have that great knowledge in the back of their mind. We just need to make sure that we can capture that again, because when the University of Miami was good, there was no one better.
Lastly, I wanted to ask you, what's your bucket list as athletic director at Miami? You're I guess 61, 62 years old now. I assume 64 years old. All right, I lost count. I try not to count too much once we get up into these kind of years. But assuming you're going to be in this job another 5-6 years, whatever. What's your bucket list as athletic director at Miami?
Impact student athletes, and make sure that they, when they come to the University of Miami and they leave, and their epilogue when they leave, they said, we had an incredible experience here. And that takes into a lot of different pieces, having the right coaches, giving those coaches the right resources, putting the right programs into play. Like I said earlier, if we're going to have to add another women's sport because of Title IX, I want to add a women's sport that the University of Miami can be successful in. I just don't want to add a sport that just brings in a lot of participants. That's really important, because the more you can win, the better it is for the entire department. So I think that certainly the facilities that are going to have to be there, those are tangible pieces that can stay around for a while. But it's really the people in those facilities and trying to make sure that when the opportunity is there to bring in new coaches or new staff members, that you do the best job that you can. A lot of times baseball players, if they get 3 hits out of 10, they're in the Hall of Fame. Okay. Athletic directors better do a little better than that on their hiring of coaches. But it's the hardest thing that you do. And for whatever reason, some folks that I've hired have been phenomenal. Some folks, not so much. But we all went in there from the standpoint of, this is going to be the right person at the right time. You've got to be able to do that, bring people in, give them the resources to do great things with their student athletes. So bucket list is to just make a difference, Gary, make a positive difference.
Well, like I said, I know a few people that are not surprised at all that you've landed in this office. And I know that everybody that is a part of the University of Miami athletic program is thrilled to death that somebody with your credentials and experience is here in that job and can help steer the athletic department through enormous change, enormous investments that are going to be made in the coming years. So I guess we'll welcome you once again, and thank you so much for your time in doing this interview.
Gary, it's always a pleasure to sit and chat. And I just wish we had won that one softball tournament. We finished second back in '82. Out there on Sunday mornings on the intramural fields. Those were a lot of fun. Really loved having the opportunity to compete with all the folks at 960. I guess that's now the Stanford dormitory, but that was a lot of fun back in the day.
Campus looks a little different now, doesn't it, Dan?
It sure does. It sure does. Gary, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. Well, we hope you have enjoyed our 4-part series with Dan Radakovich and have learned a little bit about the inner workings and what's taking place right now in the Miami Athletic Department. We thank Dan for his time throughout these 4 shows, and look forward to watching Miami Athletics progress under his leadership. We'll see you next time, everybody.